The morning sky over Seoul was not blue anymore. It had not been blue for 3 years. Now it was always gray, filled with the massive ships of the Velkara Empire. The alien vessels floated above every major city on Earth, silent reminders that humanity had lost the war. Ji-won stood at her small apartment window, staring at the largest ship. Her reflection stared back at her. She was 30 years old, but her eyes looked much older. She had been a soldier once, a member of South Korea's special forces. She had fought in the invasion. She had watched her entire unit die in the first week. The Velkara had come without warning. Their technology was so advanced that Earth's weapons seemed like toys. Nuclear missiles disappeared before they could reach their targets. Fighter jets fell from the sky like broken birds. In 2 months, every government on Earth had surrendered. That was 3 years ago. Now humans lived under Velkara rule. The aliens treated them like pets. Sometimes they were kind. Sometimes they were cruel. But they were always in control. Ji-won's younger brother Minho knocked on her door. She let him in. He looked tired. Minho was an engineer, forced to work in the alien labor camps. He fixed their machines and built their structures. He hated it, but he had no choice. "You got the message too?" Minho asked. He held up a small device that all humans were required to carry. The screen showed an order from the Velkara. Ji-won nodded. "Everyone has to attend the ceremony. No exceptions." "The Empress herself is coming to Earth," Minho said quietly. "In all 3 years, she has never visited." "Why now?" Ji-won did not answer. She had her own theories, but she kept them to herself. She had learned to be careful with her words. The Velkara had spies everywhere. The ceremony would take place in 3 days. Every human in the capital zone had to attend. The message was clear. They would gather in the Grand Plaza. They would bow before Empress Nalitha. Anyone who refused would be executed along with their entire family. Over the next 3 days, Ji-won prepared. She went to secret meetings with the resistance. The resistance was small and weak, but it still existed. They met in basements and abandoned buildings, always careful, always afraid. Doyen led the resistance in Seoul. He was an old man now, with white hair and tired eyes. But his voice was still strong. "This is our chance," he told the group. "The Empress will be vulnerable. If we can send a message, show the galaxy that humans still fight back, maybe others will join us. Or maybe we all die," said Hyerin. She was a diplomat, one of the few humans allowed to speak with Velkara officials. "I have seen their power up close. They could destroy our entire city in seconds. Then we die free," Ji-won said. Her voice was cold and hard. "Better than living on our knees." Doyen gave her a small device. It was a communicator, linked to resistance cells all over the world. "If you do something during the ceremony, press this. We will know. We will act." Minho grabbed Ji-won's arm as they left the meeting. "Please, sister, do not do anything stupid. I cannot lose you too." Their parents had died in the invasion. They only had each other now. Ji-won touched her brother's face gently. "I will be careful." "I promise," but she was lying. She had already made her decision. The day of the ceremony arrived. The sky was darker than usual. The Velkara had filled it with even more ships. Millions of humans walked toward the Grand Plaza. They moved slowly, like a river of sadness. The plaza had once been a beautiful place with gardens and fountains. Now it was just empty concrete. The Velkara had removed everything that made it human. They wanted a blank space where people would bow. Ji-won and Minho found their assigned sector. There were 10,000 people in the plaza, arranged in perfect rows. Velkara soldiers stood at every corner, their weapons ready. The soldiers wore armor that shimmered like oil on water. Their faces were hidden behind helmets. A sound filled the air. It was like music, but wrong, uncomfortable. The Velkara fleet began to move. The ships formed a circle above the plaza. Then the sky opened. The Empress's vessel descended. It was not like the other ships. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The hull was made of something that looked like crystal, but moved like liquid. Colors danced across its surface. Just looking at it made Ji-won's head hurt. The ship touched the ground without making a sound. A door appeared where there had been no door before. Light poured out so bright that people had to look away. Then she emerged. Empress Nalitha of the Velkara Empire. She was tall, taller than any human. Her skin was pale and smooth, with patterns of light moving beneath it like veins filled with stars. Her eyes glowed with a soft purple light. She wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid metal. On her head sat a crown of crystal that floated without touching her. Behind her walked her guards and her daughter, Princess Ilara. The princess looked younger, her light not as bright. But she had her mother's grace and power. The empress walked slowly through the plaza. Her feet did not touch the ground. She floated inches above it. As she passed each sector, a Velkara official announced the command. Bow. Sector by sector, humans dropped to their knees. They pressed their foreheads to the ground. Some were crying. Some were shaking with fear, but all of them bowed. The empress did not even look at them. She spoke to her attendants in her own language, pointing at humans like they were interesting insects. Sometimes she laughed. Ji-won felt rage building inside her. She felt it in her chest, hot and terrible. Her hands were shaking. Minho grabbed her wrist. Please, he whispered. Please do not. The empress came closer. She was now only 3 sectors away. 2 sectors. 1 sector. The official raised his hand. Bow. Everyone in Ji-won's sector dropped to the ground. Everyone except Ji-won. She stood straight. Her shoulders were back. Her eyes were locked on the empress. The plaza became silent. 10,000 people held their breath. The Velkara guards raised their weapons. The empress stopped moving. She turned her head slowly to look at this strange human who dared to remain standing. Ji-won could feel Minho pulling at her leg, begging her to bow. But she did not move. Her hand found the resistance communicator in her pocket. She pressed it. Then she opened her mouth and shouted with all her strength. How dare you? Her voice echoed across the plaza, across the city, across the world. The words hung in the air like a challenge to the heavens themselves. How dare you stand there in your arrogance? How dare you believe our bowed heads mean broken spirits? You take our labor, our resources, our dignity, but you will never take our humanity. The empress stared at her. For the first time in 3 years, an expression crossed the alien's face. It was not anger. It was surprise. Pure surprise. No one had ever spoken to her this way. In 500 years of conquest across 100 worlds, no one had dared. The guards moved forward to kill Ji-won, but the empress raised one hand. They stopped immediately. Wait, the empress said. Her voice was strange, musical, and cold at the same time. Bring this one to me. I wish to understand what makes her different. Ji-won felt hands grab her. Velkara soldiers pulled her away from Minho, who was screaming her name. She did not resist. She had done what she came to do. She had stood when everyone else bowed. She had reminded humanity that they were still human. As they dragged her toward the Empress's ship, Ji-won looked back once. She saw Minho's face full of tears and terror. She saw Doyen in the crowd nodding with approval. She saw Hyren looking shocked and afraid. Then she saw something else. She saw other humans lifting their heads. Just a little. Just enough to watch her go. Just enough to remember that someone had refused to bow. The door of the Empress's ship closed behind her. The light swallowed her completely, and the ceremony ended in chaos. Ji-won woke up in a room that should not exist. The walls were white but not painted. They seemed to be made of light itself. The floor was soft under her feet, but when she pressed down it became hard. Everything in the room changed when she touched it, like it was alive and trying to please her. She was not in chains. She was not in a cage. The room was beautiful, with furniture that looked like art and windows that showed stars. This was not a prison cell. This was something else. Ji-won walked to the window. Below her, Earth spun slowly. She could see the lights of cities, the curve of the oceans, the clouds moving across continents. She had never seen her home from space before. It was beautiful and terrible. Beautiful because of what it was, terrible because of who controlled it. The door opened without making a sound. A Velkara servant entered carrying a tray of food. The servant was smaller than the Empress, with skin that glowed a soft blue. It placed the tray on a table and left without speaking. Ji-won looked at the food. It was human food. Rice, vegetables, even kimchi. They had studied her. They knew what she would eat. This made her angry. It meant they had been watching humans very carefully. She ate anyway. She needed her strength. Whatever happened next, she would face it with a full stomach. Hours passed, or maybe days. It was hard to tell in the ship. The light never changed. Ji-won tried to understand why she was still alive. The Empress could have killed her in the plaza. One word, and Ji-won would have been dust. But instead, she was here in this strange, beautiful room, eating kimchi and looking at Earth. Finally, the door opened again. This time the Empress herself entered. Nalitha was even more impressive up close. She seemed to fill the room with her presence, even though she moved quietly. The patterns of light under her skin pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Her purple eyes studied Jiwon with the intensity of a scientist examining something new. "You may sit," the Empress said. Jiwon remained standing. "I prefer to stand." The Empress smiled. It was a strange smile, not quite human. "Of course you do. That is why you are here. You are the human who would not bow. My name is Jiwon. I know your name. I know many things about you. You were a soldier. You fought in the invasion. You watched your unit die. You should hate me." "I do hate you," Jiwon said simply. The Empress nodded like this was the correct answer. "Good. Hate is honest. Fear pretends to be respect, but hate is pure." She moved closer. "I have conquered 117 worlds. I have received the surrender of 342 species. They all bowed. They all accepted their place. Why do humans resist?" "Because we are human," Jiwon said. "We have always fought for freedom. Every empire that tried to crush us has fallen. Rome fell. The Mongols fell. The Nazis fell. You will fall too. I have existed for 500 of your years. My empire has stood for 3,000. Your empires lasted decades, perhaps centuries. We are not the same." "Then why are you here?" Jiwon asked. "Why am I still alive? Why do you care what one human thinks?" The Empress was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "Because in 500 years across 117 worlds, no one has ever looked at me the way you did. Without fear, without worship, just pure defiance. I want to understand why." "You cannot understand freedom if you have never lost it," Jiwon said. The Empress laughed. It was a beautiful sound, like bells. "Wise words. Perhaps you are right." She turned to leave, then stopped. "My daughter wishes to meet you. I have allowed it. Be respectful. She is not as patient as I am." The next day, or what Jiwon thought was the next day, Princess Ilara came to visit. The princess was younger than her mother, perhaps 200 years old, though age was hard to judge with Velkara. She moved with more energy, more curiosity. "I have been studying your species," Ilara said immediately. "Your history is fascinating. So much conflict, so much suffering. Yet you continue to create art and music and stories. Why?" Jiwon was surprised. She had expected more threats, more questions about the resistance. "Because that is what makes us human. We create beauty even in darkness. I read about your wars. World War I, World War II, the Korean War. So much death over ideas and borders, yet you call yourselves civilized." "We are not perfect," Jiwon admitted. "But we learn, we grow, we try to be better." Ilara sat down, her robes pooling around her like water. "My mother believes humans need to be controlled for their own good, that you will destroy yourselves without guidance. Is she wrong?" Jiwon sat down too across from the princess. "Maybe we would destroy ourselves. Maybe not. But it should be our choice. Our mistake to make. You do not have the right to decide for us, even if we are saving you from extinction. Even then." The princess was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that shocked Jiwon. "I have doubts about what we do. I have traveled to many worlds. I have seen species who were happy before we came and miserable after. But I cannot say this to my mother. She believes she is helping. She believes order is better than freedom." "Why are you telling me this?" Jiwon asked carefully. "Because you are the first person who spoke the truth to my mother's face. I admire that courage, and because I need you to understand something." Ilara leaned forward. "The Velkara Empire is dying." Jiwon felt her heart jump. "What?" "Our home system is collapsing. The star is failing. We have maybe 50 years before it dies completely. We have been conquering worlds to find a new home. Earth is perfect. The right size, the right atmosphere, the right distance from your sun. But we need humans to help us maintain it. We need you to be willing workers, not angry slaves. So, you want us to welcome our conquerors with open arms? Jiwan said bitterly. No. I want you to understand why we are here. Why my mother is desperate. Why she cannot simply leave. Alara stood up. She will offer you a deal. To be humanity's voice in our empire. To help your people transition to willing subjects instead of conquered enemies. I am telling you this because I want you to consider it seriously. After the princess left, Jiwan sat alone for a long time. Her mind was racing. The empire was dying. That changed everything. It meant they were vulnerable. It meant they needed Earth more than Earth needed them. The door opened again. The Empress had returned. This time, she was not alone. Guards stood behind her. I have a proposal, Nalitha said. You will become humanity's representative in my court. You will have power, resources, protection. You will help me transition your people from conquered subjects to willing participants in the empire. In exchange, I will grant humans freedoms they do not currently have. Better living conditions, the right to own property, the right to choose their work. I will make life easier for your species. Jiwan stood up. And what will it cost us? Our dignity, our identity, our souls? It will cost you your pride. But pride is worthless. Safety and comfort matter more. No, Jiwan said firmly. Humans will never willingly submit. We would rather die free than live as pets. The Empress's eyes flashed with anger. Then many of you will die. I am offering mercy. Do not throw it away. It is not mercy if we have no choice, Jiwan said. Real mercy would be leaving us alone. I cannot do that. We need Earth. Then we will fight you until we win, or until we are all dead. The Empress moved so fast that Jiwan barely saw it. Suddenly, the alien was right in front of her, her glowing eyes inches away. You are brave but foolish. Your resistance is meaningless. We are too powerful. Maybe, Jiwan said. But we will make you regret every day of your occupation. We will never stop fighting. We will make this planet so difficult to control that you will wish you had never come. The Empress stepped back. For a moment she looked almost sad. I had hoped you would be reasonable. I see now that you cannot be. She turned to her guards. Return her to her cell. We will speak again when she is more willing to listen. As the guards took her away, Jiwan felt a strange satisfaction. She had refused the Empress twice now. First by standing when she should bow. Now by saying no when she should say yes. Each refusal made her stronger, but she also felt afraid. Because while she was here on this ship, Minho was down on Earth. The resistance was vulnerable, and she had no idea what would happen next. She thought about the princess's words. The empire was dying. That was a weakness. That was hope. If the resistance knew this truth, they could use it. They could make plans. They could find a way to win. Jiwan smiled in the darkness of her cell. She was not done yet. Not even close. 7 days passed on the Empress's ship. Jiwan counted them carefully, scratching marks into the strange wall of her cell with a piece of metal she had torn from the furniture. The wall healed itself after each mark, but not immediately. She had a few seconds to see her count before it disappeared. She exercised to keep strong. Push-ups, squats, running in place. She ate the food they brought her. She studied every inch of her cell looking for weaknesses. There were none. The Velkara were too advanced. Their technology felt like magic. But Jiwan had learned something important. The servants who brought her food were afraid of her. They would not meet her eyes. They left quickly as if she might attack them. This meant something. It meant her defiance in the plaza had made her dangerous in their eyes. Not physically dangerous, but dangerous in some other way. On the 8th day, Princess Alara returned. She was alone this time, without guards. She carried a small device in her hands. I am taking a great risk coming here, Alara said quietly. If my mother knew I was sharing this with you, she would be very angry. Jiwan stood up. What is it? Information about our empire. The truth we hide from conquered worlds. Ilara activated the device. A holographic image appeared in the air. It showed a star system. This was our home. 3 planets, 2 suns, billions of Velkara living in peace. The image changed. The stars began to pulse strangely. The planets shook. 50 years ago, our scientists discovered the truth. Our suns are dying much faster than they should. We have perhaps 40 years before they collapse completely. Jiwan watched as the simulation showed the destruction. The planets being torn apart. The death of everything. Why are they dying? We do not know. Some think it is natural. Others believe we damage them somehow with our technology. It does not matter now. What matters is that billions of Velkara need a new home. So you decided to take ours? Yes, Ilara said simply. Your planet is perfect for us. The gravity is close to our home. The atmosphere can be adjusted. The sun will last billions of years, but we need humans to help maintain the planet. You understand the ecosystems. You can work in conditions that are difficult for us. You need slaves. My mother would say we need workers. But yes, essentially slaves. Ilara closed the hologram. I am telling you this because I believe you deserve to know the truth. And because I think there might be another way. Jiwan felt her heart beat faster. What way? What if we did not conquer you? What if we asked for help instead? Offered technology in exchange for permission to settle on parts of your planet? A real partnership instead of domination? Would your mother agree to that? No. She believes other species are inferior, that they need guidance and control. She would never see humans as equals. Ilara looked sad. But there are others in our government who think differently. If we could show them that partnership works better than conquest, we might change our entire empire's approach. Before Jiwan could respond, alarms began to sound. Red light flooded the cell. Ilara's face went pale with shock. What is happening? Jiwan asked. An attack. Someone is attacking the ship. Ilara pulled Jiwan toward the door. Come with me, quickly. They ran through corridors that twisted in impossible ways. Other Velkara rushed past them, shouting in their language. Jiwan could hear explosions in the distance. The ship was shaking. Who would dare attack your mother's ship? Jiwan asked. Ilara did not answer at first. Then she said quietly, Your resistance. They are trying to rescue you. Jiwan felt fear and hope mixed together in her chest. Minho was down there. If he was part of this attack, he was in terrible danger. The Velkara would kill them all. They reached a viewing deck. Through the window, Jiwan could see small human ships attacking the throne ship. They were tiny compared to the Velkara vessel, like insects attacking a giant, but they were fast and desperate. They used suicide tactics, ramming their ships into weak points, exploding themselves to create damage. They are going to die, Jiwan whispered. They cannot win. They know that, Ilara said. But they are doing it anyway. For you. Jiwan pressed her hand against the window. She could see one ship break through the outer defenses. It crashed into a docking bay and tiny figures poured out. Humans in stolen armor carrying weapons that should not work against Velkara shields. But they were making them work somehow. They had modified the weapons, found weaknesses. The resistance had been studying their enemy for 3 years. They had learned. I need to stop this, Jiwan said. I need to tell them to retreat before they all die. My mother will never let them leave alive, Ilara said. They attacked the Empress. The penalty is death. Then help me, please. You said you wanted another way. This is your chance to prove it. Ilara looked at Jiwan for a long moment. Then she made a decision. Follow me. I know where they are headed. They ran deeper into the ship. The corridors became darker, more damaged. They passed dead Velkara soldiers. They passed burning rooms. The human attack was more successful than it should be. Finally, they found them. Minho was there, leading a team of 10 humans. They wore armor they had stolen or built themselves. Their faces were covered, but Jiwan knew her brother's eyes. Minho! She shouted. He spun around, his weapon raised. Then he saw her and lowered it. Jiwan, you are alive. You have to leave now, before they kill you all. We are not leaving without you. Minho pulled off his helmet. His face was bruised and bloody. Doyen is coordinating attacks across the planet. High-Aaron got us the security codes to breach this ship. We are taking you home. You will all die trying. Then we die. Minho said simply. We cannot leave you here. Ilara stepped forward. The humans immediately pointed their weapons at her. Wait, Jiwan said. She helped me. She is different. She is Velkara, one of the resistance fighters said. She is the enemy. She is the only reason I am still alive, Jiwan said. And she knows things we need to know. The Empire is dying. They need Earth desperately. That is why they will not leave. Minho looked at Alara with suspicion. Is this true? Yes, Alara said. Our home system is collapsing. We have perhaps 40 years to find a new home and move our people. Earth is perfect for us. My mother will never leave willingly. Then we will make her leave, Minho said. An explosion rocked the ship. They all stumbled. Emergency lights began to flash. We need to move, one of the resistance fighters said. Our exit window is closing. They ran together through the ship. Alara guided them using her knowledge of the layout. They avoided patrols and defense systems. But as they approached the docking bay, they found their path blocked. Empress Nalitha stood in the corridor, surrounded by her elite guard. Behind her, more soldiers poured in from both directions. They were trapped. So, the Empress said, her voice cold with fury. My own daughter betrays me. I should have known. You were always too soft, too sympathetic to lesser species. Mother, please, Alara said. There is another way. We do not have to conquer them. We can ask for help. Ask? We are Velkara. We do not ask, we take. The Empress pointed at Jiwan. This human has poisoned your mind. She will die for it. And you, my daughter, will watch. Minho raised his weapon, but Jiwan pushed it down. No, killing her will not save us. It will only make things worse. Then what do we do? Minho asked desperately. Jiwan looked at the Empress. She looked at Alara. She looked at her brother and the resistance fighters who had risked everything to save her. An idea began to form. Empress Nalitha, Jiwan said loudly. I challenge you. Everyone went silent. The Empress stared at her. Challenge me? You are a human. You have no right to challenge me. Then I have nothing to lose. If you win, I die. If I win, you listen to a proposal. A real negotiation between equals. This is ridiculous. I could kill you with a thought. Yes, you could. But then you will never understand humans. You will spend the next 40 years fighting a resistance that will never stop. We will make your occupation of Earth a nightmare. Or you can give me one chance to change both our futures. The Empress was silent for a long time. Her daughter was looking at her with hope. The human resistance fighters stood ready to die. And this one woman, this Jiwan, stood waiting for an answer. Finally, the Empress smiled. It was not a kind smile. Very well. I accept your challenge. But know this. If you fail, not only will you die, but I will execute every human on this ship, including your brother. Jiwan nodded. I understand. Then let us see if human courage is enough to save you. The challenge would not be a fight. The Empress explained this as her guards cleared a space in the corridor. A fight would be pointless. Velcro were stronger, faster, and more durable than humans. Jiwan would die in seconds. Instead, the challenge would be a test of will. The Empress would enter Jiwan's mind. She would see every memory, every fear, every secret. If Jiwan could withstand this invasion without breaking, if she could keep her core self intact, she would win. If her mind shattered, she would lose everything, including her sanity. Many species have tried this challenge, the Empress said. Most go mad within minutes. The longest anyone has lasted is 12 minutes. Do you still accept? Jiwan looked at Minho. Her brother had tears in his eyes. She looked at Alara, who seemed terrified. Then she looked back at the Empress. I accept. They sat facing each other on the floor. The Empress reached out and placed her hand on Jiwan's forehead. Her skin was cold and smooth. The light patterns beneath her skin began to pulse faster. Do not fight me, the Empress said. Fighting makes it worse. Simply endure. Then the world exploded into light and pain. Jiwan felt the Empress enter her mind like a flood of cold water. Memories began to surface, ones she had buried deep. Her parents dying in the invasion. Her unit being torn apart by Velkara weapons. The faces of friends she had lost. Every failure, every fear, every moment of weakness. The Empress's voice echoed through her consciousness. You are afraid. You are small. You are nothing. But Jiwan held on. She thought of her brother. She thought of Earth. She thought of every human who had ever fought for freedom. She was not nothing. She was part of something larger than herself. The Empress pushed deeper. Jiwan's childhood appeared. Being bullied at school. Feeling inadequate. Disappointing her father. Every embarrassing moment, every time she had failed. You are weak. You always have been. No. Ji-won pushed back with her own thoughts. Weakness was trying. Weakness was fighting even when you knew you might lose. She had been weak many times, but she had never stayed weak. She had always gotten back up. Time lost all meaning. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like seconds. The Empress showed her terrible visions. Earth burning. Everyone she loved dying. Humanity enslaved forever. This is your future if you resist. Accept it, surrender. But Ji-won had learned something from the princess. The Empire was dying. They needed Earth. That meant humans had power, even if they did not realize it. The Empress was afraid. Afraid that humans would never submit. Afraid that 40 years of constant resistance would destroy her people before they could establish their new home. The Empress was not showing Ji-won these visions to break her. She was showing them to herself. She was afraid of them. You fear us, Ji-won thought loudly. That is why you will lose. The pressure increased. The pain became almost unbearable. But Ji-won held on. She thought of simple things. The taste of kimchi, the sound of rain, her brother's laugh. These small human moments were her anchor. They kept her sane. She did not know how much time had passed, but suddenly the pressure released. The Empress pulled her hand away, breathing hard. For the first time, she looked tired. 13 minutes, the Empress said quietly. You have broken the record. Ji-won collapsed onto the floor, shaking. Minho ran to her, holding her. Everything hurt, but she was still herself. She had won. The Empress stood up slowly. She looked at her daughter, then at the humans. Very well. I will listen to your proposal. Speak. But before Ji-won could say anything, new alarms began to sound. A Velkara officer ran up to the Empress, speaking rapidly in their language. The Empress's face went hard with anger. What is happening? Ilara asked. A coup, the Empress said. Commander Vex has seized control of the war fleet. He is demanding I resume full military operations against Earth. If I refuse, he will bombard the planet's cities. Ji-won forced herself to stand, even though her legs were shaking. Who is Commander Vex? The head of my military forces. He believes I have become too soft, that I should simply exterminate humanity and take Earth by force. The Empress looked genuinely worried. He has the support of many hardline commanders. If he succeeds, billions of humans will die. Then we stop him, Ji-won said. The Empress laughed bitterly. You can barely stand. How will you stop a military fleet? The same way we have always fought you, with courage and desperation and the refusal to give up. Ji-won turned to Minho. Contact Doyun. Tell him to coordinate the resistance. We need simultaneous attacks on every Velkara installation on Earth. That will only give Vex an excuse to attack, the Empress said. No, it will divide his attention. He cannot defend everything at once. While he is dealing with Earth, we take back your war fleet. Ilara stepped forward. I know which officers are still loyal to my mother. If we can reach them, we can turn the fleet against Vex. This is madness, the Empress said. But there was a spark of hope in her eyes. Even if we succeed, how do we prevent this from happening again? My people are divided. Many believe humans are too dangerous to live. Then we prove them wrong, Ji-won said. We show them that humans and Velkara can work together. That partnership is stronger than conquest. The Empress studied Ji-won for a long moment. Then she nodded. Very well. But if we fail, both our species may die. Vex is ruthless. He will not hesitate to destroy everything. They moved quickly. The Empress contacted her loyal officers, arranging a secret meeting. Ilara coordinated with the human resistance. Minho used his engineering knowledge to hack into Velkara communications, spreading confusion among their forces. On Earth, the resistance struck. They had been planning for this moment for 3 years. Doyun led attacks in Seoul. Hyerin used her diplomatic access to sabotage command centers. All across the planet, humans fought back with everything they had. Vex's forces were caught off guard. They had expected broken, defeated humans. Instead, they faced organized guerrilla fighters who knew every weakness in Velkara defenses. The humans did not win every battle, but they won enough to matter. Meanwhile, on the throne ship, Ji-won and a mixed force of humans and loyal Velkara prepared to retake the war fleet. It was a strange sight. Humans and aliens working together, trusting each other with their lives. This feels wrong, one resistance fighter said to Ji-won. 3 days ago, we were enemies. Now we are allies? War makes strange friends, Ji-won replied. Focus on surviving. We will figure out the rest later. They used small ships to approach the war fleet. The fleet was massive, hundreds of vessels arranged in formation above Earth. Vex had positioned them to strike at major cities. One word from him and millions would die. Alara guided them to a weakness in the flagship's shields. My mother designed this ship. I know its vulnerabilities. They breached the hull. Inside, they found chaos. Velkara officers were fighting each other. Some supported Vex, others remained loyal to the Empress. The coup was tearing the military apart. Jiwan's team fought their way to the command center. Minho used Velkara technology to shut down security systems. Human resistance fighters used tactics they had learned from 3 years of guerrilla warfare. And loyal Velkara soldiers used their advanced weapons to protect them. Finally, they reached the command center. Commander Vex stood at the controls, surrounded by his most loyal troops. He was larger than most Velkara, with scars across his face and armor that had seen many battles. "The weak Empress sends a human to stop me?" Vex laughed. "This proves I am right. She has lost her way." "No," Empress Nalitha said, entering behind them. "I have found it." Vex's soldiers raised their weapons, but many of them hesitated. The Empress still commanded respect. Even those who disagreed with her could not easily kill her. "You have led us for 300 years, Vex said to the Empress. "You conquered worlds. You built an empire. But now you bow to humans? You accept their challenge? You forget what we are?" "I remember exactly what we are," the Empress replied. "We are survivors, and survivors adapt. Humans have shown me that strength is not just about force. It is about will, about refusing to surrender even when defeat seems certain. Sentiment will not save our species. We need Earth, we should take it. And then what?" Jiwan spoke up. "You take Earth by force. You kill billions of humans, and you are left with a dead planet and no one to help you maintain it. You have power, Commander, but you lack vision." Vex turned to her. "You dare speak to me, human?" "I dare because I have nothing to lose. You have already decided to kill us. But before you do, answer one question. What if we offered to help you? What if we found a way for both species to survive? Humans would never help us willingly. Maybe not 3 years ago. But things have changed. We have seen your empire. We have seen your princess who wants peace. We have fought beside your soldiers today. We are not as different as you think." Vex was silent. Around him, his soldiers were lowering their weapons. They were listening. "I propose a treaty," Jiwan continued. "Give us back our sovereignty. Allow us to govern ourselves. In exchange, we will help you establish a colony on Mars. We will share technology. We will work together to prepare for your people's migration, not as masters and slaves, but as partners. And if we refuse, then you will spend the next 40 years fighting a war you cannot win. Every day will be a battle. Every human will be your enemy. Is that the future you want for your people?" Vex looked at the Empress. The negotiations took place in Seoul, in the same plaza where Jiwan had refused to bow. But this time the atmosphere was different. Humans and Velkara sat together at long tables, speaking as equals for the first time in 3 years. Jiwan represented the human resistance along with Doyen and Hyerin. Minho attended as an advisor on technical matters. On the other side sat Empress Nalitha, Princess Alara, and several Velkara officials who had supported the partnership. Commander Vex was also there, watching everything with suspicious eyes. He had agreed to stand down, but he made it clear that he would be watching for any sign of betrayal. The first days were difficult. Both sides had demands. Both sides had anger. 3 years of occupation had created deep wounds that would not heal quickly. "You killed millions of humans in the invasion," Doyen said, his voice shaking with emotion. "How do we forgive that?" "You attacked our people for 3 years," a Velkara official replied. "You destroyed our installations, killed our soldiers. How do we forget that?" "Because we must," Jiwan said quietly. "If we cannot move past our anger, both our species will die. Your home system is collapsing. Our planet is occupied. We both need this to work." The negotiations continued for weeks. Slowly, painfully, a treaty began to take shape. The Treaty of Seoul, as it came to be called, contained several major points. First, all Velkara military forces would withdraw from Earth within 6 months. Humans would regain full sovereignty over their planet. No Velkara would have authority over human governments or laws. Second, the Velkara would establish a colony on Mars. Humans would help with the construction and terraforming. In exchange, the Velkara would share their advanced technology, medical knowledge, energy systems, faster than light travel, things that would advance humanity by centuries. Third, a joint defense council would be formed. If either species faced external threats, they would help defend each other. This was Vex's demand. He wanted assurance that humans would not turn on the Velkara once they were vulnerable. Fourth, both species would establish cultural exchange programs. Velkara would learn about human art, music, and philosophy. Humans would learn about Velkara science, history, and culture. The goal was understanding. Fifth, war crimes tribunals would be established. Velkara officers who had committed atrocities during the occupation would face justice. Human resistance members who had murdered innocent Velkara civilians would also face trial. This was the hardest point to negotiate, but both sides agreed it was necessary. Justice must be blind, Heron said. It cannot favor one species over another. The Empress agreed. Those who acted cruelly will face consequences, including my own officers. But not everyone supported the treaty. On Earth, there were humans who wanted complete Velkara expulsion. They wanted revenge, not partnership. They held protests and threatened violence. Among the Velkara, there were those who still believed in conquest. They saw the treaty as weakness. Some military officers resigned in protest. Others plotted in secret to undermine the agreement. 1 month after the treaty was signed, extremists struck. A human terrorist group attacked a Velkara diplomatic shuttle, killing 12 aliens. The same day, a Velkara military officer ordered an unauthorized strike on a human settlement, killing 8 people. The treaty nearly collapsed. Both sides demanded justice and revenge. Commander Vex called for immediate military response. Human resistance leaders wanted to resume fighting. Jiwan and Princess Ilara worked desperately to hold things together. They tracked down the terrorists on both sides. The human extremists were arrested by human authorities. The Velkara officer was detained by his own military. This is exactly what the extremists wanted, Ilara said at an emergency council meeting. They wanted to divide us. To prove that partnership is impossible, we cannot let them win. But how do we stop them? A human representative asked. There will always be people who hate the other side. Then we show them a better way, Jiwan said. We show them that working together makes us stronger. We prove that the extremists are wrong. They organized a joint memorial for all victims of the conflict. Humans who died in the invasion, Velkara who died in the resistance, victims of terrorism on both sides. Everyone who had suffered was remembered. The Empress herself attended, standing beside Doyen. 2 leaders who had been enemies united in grief. My people have caused great pain, the Empress said. We came to your world as conquerors. We took what was not ours to take. For this I am truly sorry. Doyen stood up slowly. And my people have killed yours. In our desperation and anger, we became cruel. We forgot that even our enemies feel pain. For this I am sorry. It was not enough to heal everything, but it was a start. Over the next year, the Mars colony began to take shape. Human engineers and Velkara scientists worked side by side. They built structures that combined both species' designs. The colony was beautiful, a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. Minho led the human technical team. He had learned to work with Velkara technology, combining it with human innovation. The results were amazing. Medical treatments that could cure diseases humans had struggled with for centuries, energy systems that were clean and unlimited, transportation that could take people across the solar system in days. We could have had this 3 years ago, Minho said to Jiwan one day. If they had just asked instead of conquering, we would have helped them. Would we? Jiwan asked. Be honest. If aliens had appeared and asked for part of our solar system, would we have said yes? Minho was quiet. Maybe not. We probably would have been afraid. Exactly. That is why this is important. We are learning to overcome fear. Both species. Jiwan became the first human ambassador to the Velkara. She spent half her time on Earth and half on the Mars colony, helping to bridge the gap between species. It was exhausting work. There were still problems, still conflicts. But slowly things improved. Princess Ilara became queen after her mother chose to step down. Empress Nalitha was tired after 500 years of rule. She wanted to see her people settle into their new home before she rested. Queen Ilara's first act was to formally apologize for the invasion. Her second act was to open Velkara historical archives to human scholars. She wanted humans to understand her people's culture and struggles. My mother believed in domination, Ilara told Jiwan. I believe in partnership. Not because I am soft, but because I have seen what you are capable of. Humans are stronger than we realized. 10 years after the Treaty of Seoul, Jiwan stood on Mars looking at Earth in the distance. The colony had grown into a real city. Velkara and humans walked together through the streets. Children of both species played together, learning each other's languages. It was not perfect. There were still problems. Some humans still hated Velkara. Some Velkara still looked down on humans. But they were learning. Both species were growing. Minho had married a human woman who worked in the colony's agricultural section. They had 2 children who were growing up speaking both languages, eating both kinds of food. The future generation would not remember the war the same way their parents did. Hyerin had become Earth's representative in the Joint Defense Council. She worked with Commander Vex, who had grudgingly come to respect human determination. They had even developed something like friendship, though neither would admit it. Doyen had passed away peacefully the year before. He had lived to see the treaty succeed. His last words to Jiwan were simple. You did it. You saved us all. Queen Ilara joined Jiwan on the observation deck. They had become close friends over the years. Sometimes they argued. Sometimes they disagreed strongly. But they trusted each other. Do you remember the day you refused to bow? Ilara asked. Every day, Jiwan said. It was the scariest moment of my life. It was the moment that changed everything. If you had bowed, if you had accepted defeat, none of this would exist. Ilara gestured at the colony, at Earth, at the future they had built together. I was just one person, Jiwan said. One person who refused to give up. One person who believed humans deserved better. That is all it takes to change the world. One person with courage. A memorial stood in the center of the colony. It honored everyone who had died in the conflict. Human and Velkara names were carved together side by side. No separation. No hierarchy. Just memory and respect. Jiwan visited the memorial often. She found her unit's names there. Her friends who had died in the invasion. She also found the names of Velkara soldiers who had died trying to protect civilians during the resistance attacks. I am sorry, she whispered to them all. I am sorry you had to die for us to learn this lesson. But from that pain, something beautiful had grown. 2 species that should have been enemies forever had become partners, not because they wanted to, not because it was easy, but because they had chosen to try. The Velkara home system would collapse in 30 more years. By then, billions of Velkara would have migrated to the solar system. Mars would be fully terraformed. Several moons of Jupiter and Saturn were being prepared for settlement. The solar system that had once belonged to one species would become home to 2, and maybe Jiwan thought that was humanity's real strength. Not